Hey, this is Brian Culligan. I'm here with, well, look, it's Dom, and we got Ross Gates and Jody from Masters of Marketing. How you
Who are
guys
all
doing?
these people? I'm great.
Who
How are
are
you?
all these people? I'm doing amazing. Today, I got some interesting conversations. We are talking about Tony Robbins right before this and some like unconventional like pump up routines. This man, he jumps into an ice bath. He jumps on a trampoline 10 to 15 minutes before his show, and it goes 3 to 4 hours. And part of me explaining this was like I was jumping up before the show to get like pumped up and ready. It's like first you got to have the talent, and then you have to have the technique, and then you have to swim in a pool. Ross, tell that story.
Swim in a pool? Oh, I'm just telling the Michael Phelps story. So everyone's like, Michael Phelps is just like a really great swimmer because he's got the perfect body for it. He's got the muscles. But he started swimming at 7 years old. And there's a lot of things you have to do correctly to get to that point. And uh, one of my favorite stories is during one of the Olympic finals, his goggles filled with water and he couldn't see anything. But because he'd like swam in the dark before in a pool because he'd prepared for every scenario that could possibly go wrong, like it didn't matter because he knew exactly how many strokes it would take to get to the end of the pool. So it's just all about like, you think that winners are winners just because like they somehow push and become the best that day, but they practice absolutely everything and they do the things they do because they work.
Yes. And they put in the time. It takes a long, long time to become the best in the world. Like Ryan Lochte, like not a lot of people know about him, but if it wasn't for Michael Phelps, he's like a half a millisecond or a half a second or whatever behind Michael Phelps on every single race, like throughout like his whole entire career. He's just always been like 1 second less. And most people don't know about Ryan Lochte either.
Who?
Exactly. Exactly. But they were like Scottie Pippen and Jordan, right? They challenged each other and they practiced with each other all the time, and so they were able to challenge each other. So today, moving into kind of how that means and like long term thinking. 7 years old, starting to swim. Like Tony Robbins at 16 got in trouble, and he knew that he wanted to be a speaker, and he's 50 something now, so it's like 40-year career of speaking, right? These like if you look at the original Gary Vee videos that he put out there of content, he's terrible on camera. He's like atrocious, boring. He's all secluded. He's uptight like this. He's kind of mumbling his words, and he doesn't even want to be there, but he's kind of pushing through it. It's really interesting, and I think some unconventional marketing that you have to think of if you're about when you're building a company for the long term is the time horizon of what you're doing in terms of your marketing programs. Sure, you can. Yesterday, the day before, we were looking at like keyword hacking. We were looking at trend analysis, like how can you write a content piece around a Google trend? How can you write it about COVID? How can you run it about PPP loans, things that are in the zeitgeist that are in the on Google Trends right now? Great conversation with Al Chen of Coda, but essentially some of the opposite ways that you can look at your marketing strategy is how do you train an audience for the long term? I think for me, the easiest examples of this is Office 365 and Adobe's student and teacher discount. So years and years ago, Microsoft understood that there was a lot of competition with like Lotus Notes and different like Word documents out there. And what they decided to do is give it free Office 365 to students in college. And the thought process there is, while I'm going to give it for free to millions of students for a set of 4 years or even younger, that after I train and educate these individual students for free, and yes, it's going to cost me money after those 4 to 5 years when they go out in the workforce. Think about what tools that they're going to use. They're not going to switch to Lotus Notes. They're going to want to use what they use, like PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. They're going to want to use the tools that they're used to. Same with Adobe. Adobe has done the same type of tactics. Thinking about long-term thinking on your marketing campaigns is how do you train your audience over the long term, educate them, and really, if you're thinking about it from a growth aspect, it's about how do you get them to the place, that aha moment where they absolutely need you and they can't live without you. They're going to buy your product. And so while students don't necessarily have money in the short term, in the long term, you're talking about a 30, 40-year working career. where you're going to be able to collect revenue. So if you think about it up front, 10%, 4 to 5 years, they're going to use your product for free. They're going to go on for 30 to 40 years. Like 10% of the lifetime of the product, you're giving it away for free so that they will use you as a tool for the rest of their entire career.
And this works. I don't know, Brian, you can chime in if I'm wrong, but this works good with SaaS because like it doesn't cost that much to run servers. So someone who's just getting started probably isn't going to use it for a huge project or something like that. So there's not that much investment up front, just having your normal FAQs.
Well, I think it works in any industry. It especially works in SaaS because your margin should be 80 to 90%. Like the software should only cost you like 10 to 20% cost of goods sold, which is then a write-off in and of itself because you're effectively like donating it. I'm sure they have it as a write-off for a marketing campaign in some other way.
Yeah.
I wanted you, Ross, to tell the really interesting story about
I just want to
Japan.
dive into this also too.
Okay, cool.
So like I want to sell a product to a bunch of college students, but I can't just go scrape the college student website, get 20,000 students and blast something to them. I could, but it might be a little sketchy. But just doing this, like I went to UConn, every single kid gets Adobe Illustrator because like the teachers are proud to present it as this gem that they get to give away. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive and we're so happy that like you get to use this for free. You should use it for your projects and other stuff. Everything's going to look so beautiful. You basically build your marketing team for you. You build the list for you and you get access you wouldn't normally get. So cool. Talking about Japan, one of my favorite stories about this long-term thinking is selling coffee in Japan. So coffee, I mean, it was in Europe, it was in America, but it was never really in Japan. And when they first just took like everyday cups of coffee to Japan and they tried to sell it to people, the entire audience was like, this tastes disgusting. Why would we possibly want this? Like, take it away. And they stumbled for, a couple of years and were like, okay, how are we going to actually sell this in Japan? And what they did is they stopped selling cups of coffee. They started selling coffee flavored candies to kids. And it took them 10 years to basically get the kids to associate the sweet flavor of their coffee candy childhood with the same not sweet flavor of adult regular cups of coffee, so that when all of those kids grew up, they craved the taste of coffee because it reminded them of their childhood. And I think that's just a crazy 15-year marketing campaign. But it was more than just like a marketing campaign for a one-time product. Now that it's introduced and it's the norm, everybody does it, and now they're selling a staple product for the rest of time in that country.
I think this works for a multitude of reasons, right? Coffee is a habit. It's also a drug. You're basically telling a whole entire audience that, oh, the number one drug for kids is sugar, right? Like my kids go crazy for sugar. I can get them to do almost like whatever I want for sugar. Like it's insane. So like that is their drug of choice. Adults, one of the most common drugs for adults is caffeine and stimulants like coffee and tea, right? And so what they were trying to do is say, hey, we already know that people use the stimulant and it's a very tea culture in Japan. How can we get them to trade, or how can we get that audience to shift from what they're already doing with some stimulant to a different stimulant? And what's really interesting about that is that they were willing to take the time. They were willing to put in the effort. They weren't going to say, oh, we need to convert everybody on a big spend right now. They trained an audience. They educated an audience. They changed their taste buds over the course of like 10 to 15 years. And like, it's brilliant. It's genius. And if you have the persistence, oh man, I don't even know what the word is, but it's crazy. Like they just need that ability to sustain and go through a strategy like that. You are going to be ingrained in the culture of, in the example of Adobe, you're going to be ingrained in their work product for the rest of their life. In Microsoft Word, you're going to be ingrained with Excel spreadsheets for the rest of their career. And so you're in this, it's a large investment, but it's something that over the long term can just generate income and revenue after a long time.
For sure. I have another story about Japan I want to tell quickly.
Cool.
I don't know that it's so much I guess it is marketing, but it's not so much a campaign as just an ingenious use of product, where I think it was Norway had a huge surplus of salmon. and they wanted to sell it. They didn't know where to sell it in the world. And one of the options was, well, Japan eats a lot of sushi. We can just sell it to Japan and they'll turn it into sushi. But when they approached Japan, Japan basically said, no, we're not going to do that. That's like eating raw pork. That's disgusting. That's dangerous. Like, no one eats raw salmon. And so Norway went, okay, so we can't sell it to sushi chefs, but we still have this surplus and it's just going to go bad and we're going to throw it away. So we're going to give it for free to all of the grocery stores in Japan, like, I don't know, 100 pounds of sushi, like salmon a day. And we're going to give them free salmon if and only if they sell it as sushi. And the grocery stores were like, sure, you're going to give us a free product and we just get to put it on the shelves and maybe people will buy it. Okay. And so they put it in grocery stores and people eventually just saw it. Like, maybe they didn't buy it right away, but they saw it as like, oh, this is just a commonplace thing. I guess this is a thing that everybody does. I'll start buying it at the grocery store just because it's available. And then all of the sushi chefs were kind of like, okay, cool. People are already buying this. I'll totally buy your salmon now.
Amazing. All right, we got a comment from an ex-coffee shop owner or a current coffee shop owner. People can get used to any taste of coffee, cheap or expensive. This is a story from a coffee shop owner. It's only a matter of time. And that's really interesting. The habits are really, really hard to break. If you do something, I think like psychology-wise, it's if you do something 6 times, you will essentially form that habit. And it takes like 30 times of doing something the opposite to break a habit versus the 6 times it does to build a habit. And then it becomes like a lifetime habit. So if I decide I'm going to drink bad coffee and like it 6 times, I'm creating a habit for myself. So it doesn't really matter what the habit is. It becomes hard to break as your brain plasticity in your brain. As you get older, the brain plasticity, it gets harder to learn new things and make different neural connections. So what ends up occurring is, they say you can't teach a dog new tricks. It's literally true because it's harder to make connections and becomes a painful process to learn and do something new the older you get. So,
also, just going along with this, people get used to the flavor of coffee. A good story about Febreze is people get used to just the smell of their environment. So when people started first selling Febreze, they would go do a test like user interview with someone who had 7 cats. And they would walk in and the house would smell absolutely disgusting. And they would ask the person who owns the house, like, so like, how often do you use Febreze? Oh, like once every 3 weeks when like the smell becomes like too bad for me to bear. And everyone's like standing there with their hands over their mouth being like, really? Like, it only happens for you like once every 3 weeks? Like, it's disgusting for us like every single time we come to your house. And so they just had to, as you were saying, form a habit where it wasn't use it when it actually smells bad. It was clean your house and use it as like a, finishing touch, like every time you finished cleaning your house. And actually Febreze was originally unscented and they added a scent to it just so that you'd smell that scent and feel like, oh, like now my house is clean because it's a scent that I don't normally smell and I'm not normally used to.
that's awesome. All right, we got a person returning, Matthew Gillen or Gillen. I don't know if it's Gillen or Gillen. Back is part of the voice community, and he had some questions for us. Can we unmute him? Let's unmute. Matt, you can ask your question, or we can unmute you.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
It's going well.
Good. Yeah, so we launched our first app kind of like in partnership with Amazon. They helped a lot with building it and stuff like that. And we're getting good initial traffic. Like we have like 25-star reviews and the DAU/MAU ratio is good and stuff, but like we're just trying to figure out like what can we do to kind of take it to the next level, like potentially like a viral video maybe or something like that. And we're just trying to find like a good growth tactic for like the next steps and stuff like that.
Cool. What's the link or what's your skill?
Yeah, so it's called Mutter Nonsense. Mutter.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nutter.
Mutter.
Oh, MUTT. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
The first link, yeah, right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like a phone connected game. So like Alexa starts the app and then everybody on their phone connects and you kind of respond to these prompts on your phone. Alexa would read the prompts out and then you vote on the favorite prompt. But it's like the first skill to have like phone connectivity. So that's like kind of what's unique. And then I've been on Reddit a little bit, posting
Yeah,
here and there to try to get people to play it. And we've gotten some traffic there, but it's just a little traffic, but then it dies out. And I'm trying to figure out like what's a good way to get consistent traffic to
absolutely.
keep coming and stuff like that. So
Consistent. I can't help you with consistent right off the bat. But like
yeah.
first thing that comes to my mind is it's kind of a cheap tactic,
Mm.
but it'll get you a bunch of installs. If you go to Alexa Skill Marketing on Facebook, Enable for Enable, there's
Mm-hmm.
400, this is a group that I run. There's 444 people here. All of these people on here are Alexa Skill developers, right?
Mm.
So they want to basically, you post there, you start engaging with the people, they'll like your skill, they'll give you reviews back and forth, get some feedback in there. The other place where I know there's a big proponent are you on? Okay. Have you started conversations with a lot of people there?
Yeah, I've been talking to quite a few people. I've been talking to Sarah
Yeah,
and Liam and a whole bunch of other people there.
that's
Yeah.
cool. So that community is good too. What about Bradley Metrock from Project Voice?
I know of him. Yeah.
Cool. And then Pete Erickson, Voice Summit.
He sounds very familiar. I think I've seen
Okay.
him. Yeah.
So Brett Kinsella, Pete, if you want to go from top down in the voice community, kind of like Carl Robinson, you'll want to get on his podcast,
Mm.
the like Voice Tech podcast. So
Okay.
he's always looking for speakers. I can give you an introduction there.
That'd be
So
great.
from a top down PR campaign, it's like you want to go with after all of the top voice people, Pete Erickson of Voice Summit, Bradley Metrock, and get into their podcast and get interviews with these guys.
Mm.
Are you familiar with what Brandon VoiceFlow did?
No, not
Okay.
really.
So what he did is he went and found a Facebook community and
Mhm.
bought it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So similarly, I'm gonna do a reveal. This Meetup Group, Masters of Marketing,
Mhm.
San Francisco, used to be called Advanced Growth Hack Tactics.
Mm.
Okay. And I didn't run it. I was part of
Mm.
the group. The guy was stepping down, and then I talked to him. I was like, I'm going to take this over. I let it sit there for about 2-3 months, and then I switched it over to the Masters of Marketing
Oh,
San
interesting.
Francisco group. Now, we push people to the Masters of Marketing Facebook group. We push people to like every single one of our events, and we're launching a new website around it, basically creating this cluster storm around the community of Masters of Marketing. If you
Mm.
go back, what was the Jacobs Day? I don't know, Jacob Peters.
Go
The other,
scroll down in this website.
is it on
And
here?
then hit past
Is
speakers.
it, oh, cool. It's a brand new website. I don't even know how it works. Jacob Peters, if you click on that one.
That's actually just going to go to our YouTube channel. It's not
Got
hooked
it.
up yet, but
Got
it's
it,
up.
got
I'm
it.
pretty sure.
Anyways, when we get the Jacob Peters video up about community,
Mhm.
that's really, really what you're driving at with one of these games, right?
Got it.
And it's about growing the community. How can you incentivize the community? How can you engage the community? And who are your power content creators? So
Mm.
all the games that go viral have some sort of embedded network effect. And then we talked about, I think it was Monday, we talked about data and data velocity,
Mm.
right? So I think that's a
Yeah.
really good one to think about too, how you can build data and data velocity into your product.
Got it. Okay.
We also talked about onboarding experiences. If you scroll down, it looks here like it says you need 3 to 12 players.
Mm.
Like, what is the experience when you sign up and how someone invites all of those other people? So if you have a page that's like on the phone, I guess, because it's phone connected, and it says put in the phone numbers of all the people you want to play, then
Mm.
boom, they'll figure out about it and they might tell their friends.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Onboarding
I think that's the contact, like maybe like if there's a mobile experience, like import your contacts, right?
Mm.
That's an easy, like LinkedIn did that, Facebook did that, input like what are in your contacts do you want to play with? What's the social kind of graph that you're tapping into that you want to expand? SMS is cool. It's easier to embed into kind of other social networks that are like that. Facebook, I don't think really is good for that anymore, but it was huge. I'm not really sure what the social gaming
Yeah.
places are. Like maybe Twitch. Is there a way
Yeah,
that
Twitch is
you?
a big one.
Yeah. So maybe is there a way that you can kind of like live stream these games?
Yeah, so that's the thing is like it can be live streamed. We actually built a web version of it, so you can play on like Alexa or you can play like on a website basically and you get the same
That's cool.
experience. So it can be live streamed basically, and streamers can live stream it and have their fans play with them. Like that's one thing we were thinking about and stuff too.
So okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Mhm.
This is going to get into the data velocity conversation. Why? It might be a little. I'm going to be a little bit harsh here.
Mhm.
I play your game. Why do I want to live stream it?
You'd want to live stream it as a content creator because it's a fun way for your fans to interact with you in a real-time situation. So it's like you start the game and all your fans join and they're able to play alongside you and see how the chat reacts to their prompts and how you react to their jokes and stuff. So it's kind of a way for the content creator to give attention to their fans and for the fans to interact with them in a fun and engaging way.
You have to watch the Jacob Peters video because what you're describing here is a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem. If you go through the psychology of a community, it is all about the content creators, right?
Yeah.
It's almost the influencers that you bring to use the game. And I don't know if there's a way or a platform to buy Twitch people to start playing the game. But influencer marketing does work, right?
Yeah.
So if you can get the right group to play the game, or you record it or you have it on Twitch and use that as content of people having fun and in the moment and making little trailers, then what you've done is you've associated fun in groups with your trailers. And if you can do that and then push it out, that's the content that you create to get more users into your funnel, which creates the data velocity, right? And so
that makes sense.
So understanding you may have to pay, or you may have to like incentivize to push the ball up the hill, right? So you're pushing the snowball up the hill. You make to get the viral loop going. And if you have a tight viral loop embedded in there, what should happen is you should have some viral coefficient that for every single person that casts on Twitch, they have one more user or three more users try out the game.
Yeah.
And it does have to be genuinely good and fun. And so before I would, spend a ton of money on it, is this something that you and your friends want to do, right?
To like play the game or spend money on build. Well, we built the game because we wanted something like this on Alexa, but there just wasn't anything.
Got it.
So it kind of came from our boredom and wanting to see this experience brought to voice. And we like pitched it to Amazon and they really liked the idea. So they helped us build it basically. And they're kind of backing us like that. So it's a really fun game. We've had great reviews and great feedback and stuff. Like the play session and retention is great for a voice app. It's like better than any other apps we've built. So I definitely think it's a winner. Yeah.
So then two things from that. If Amazon has anybody that's, their partners or influencers, you should definitely reach out to them first. And then two, the Gary Vee whole thing is before you spend $1,000 on one top influencer, start with the bottom of the barrel, influencer you pay $25 and get 20 influencers you pay $25 to play with their 5 friends, and then double down on the influencers that get the most, like Brian was saying.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
That's the way I would look at it. I'd reach out to Max from Volley. He keeps cards close to the chest, but he's kind of figured this out. He's kind of figured out some viral loops. He won't tell me what he does, but he will advertise. So if you kind of want to go down that road, advertising.
Like buy ad space?
Oh, he will. He wants to buy ad space and he wants to sell ad space.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So he was talking to us about doing that about a year ago, and we it's still, the numbers weren't huge, so we didn't kind of like go down that road because.
But it's buying ad space on other Alexa skills, right? So
his
Alexa skill.
He wants to, it's about flow, right? So it's about data velocity. It's about user velocity. If I can get more users and buy ads in other skills cheaper and I can retain them, then the money that they generate for me, I'm going to spend money all day on ads on games to spend that. And so he's constantly testing new sources and channels of traffic, so that, and he's also looking to monetize his skills. So it becomes a war of attention and a war of capture. Like, can I pay $1 to get $1.01 worth of value out of paying Volley $1 for their users in their advertisements, get them, capture them, and can I generate $1.01? And if I can do that, then I'm going to do that all day long.
So for Matthew, he should find Volley, and he should find every other skill on Alexa that's a game that he's better than, and he should ask to buy their users, or he should ask to buy ads, and then take their users because he's the best experience.
Yes.
All right. Interesting. Okay. We'll definitely think about that. Yeah. Cool.
Also,
Yeah, I think
Dom just posted something. He said that if you want to start with smaller influencers, you should look at Twitch competitors like Mixer and Caffeine.tv as other places.
I've actually been reading Volley and Max and stuff like that, but we're just a little hesitant right now because we do see them as like a direct competitor. So
it's all co-opetition at this time, man. Just to be honest, like there's not a big enough pie there for like to think of like direct competition, right?
All right.
Yeah, I would just think of it as co-opetition. Some of my earliest competitors, story, when I was building mobile apps back in 2010 and 2011, my biggest competitor and I became friends. And then like 6-7 years later, I'm in his wedding party. Like we became that close over time because we were sharing secrets. Because like the mobile app development space, when I shared my secrets with him and he shared his secrets with me, yes, I would lose to him, he would lose to me, but we beat more people combined than the co-opetition between us, right?
That makes sense. Okay. All right. Maybe I will try to sit down and talk with them then, see what they're up to and stuff.
Cool. So to basically recap this, what I would say is, you're going to get a couple installs from this Enable Alexa Skill Marketing, right? So it's kind of like the ground up approach. You get a lot of other developers in, and I do a trailer of what you're doing, because what you're doing is really interesting, right? I haven't seen this before, where there's a phone with a skill and there's kind of like multiple interface, and just that, you do a video of the experience, either post to Twitch or post something else. That's going to get some interest and get people talking about it. Also, these aren't going to give you like a ton of users. It's going to get you notoriety in the space. I'll also introduce you to another person in the space who's an investor in the space. And he's always looking for new and interesting things.
Cool.
Where he's invested in like 6 or 7 companies.
Is it Voice Punch?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. I know them, yeah.
Okay, cool. If you know them, then awesome. But essentially, like that's a good place for introductions, because everybody's trying to figure out how to monetize, and nobody's 100% figured it out. When somebody figures it out, like that's awesome. So you're on this. People want to play games. People that want to interact. Now it's really trying to understand these marketing flows of, can I spend $1 to get $1.01 back? Can I spend $1 over here to get $1.01 back? I don't know what your monetization model is. It's too long for this conversation.
Yeah.
But that's the way that the flows that you have to think about are.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.
I think it's a good place to stop, Ross.
That is a good place to stop. Thanks for attending another Masters of Marketing. We pivoted about 15 minutes of the way through from unconventional growth tactics to unconventional voice growth tactics.
This is Friday, April 17th, 2020. And thanks everybody for joining. I'll see you later.
See you later. Bye.